An overlooked Star Trek arc quietly predicted the Vulcan race's greatest ability. One Star Trek story, overlooked by fans, secretly predicted the Vulcans' greatest and most unexpected superpower. The Vulcans, one of Star Trek's best-known alien races, are devoted to total logic. Despite their great intellects, Vulcans are also one of the franchise's strongest and long-lived species as well. This physical prowess allowed the Vulcans to shine as an Earth sport, and Star Trek Voyager #1 from 1996 predicts it. The Storm, appearing in Star Trek Voyager #1, was written by Laurie S. Sutton and drawn by Jesus Redondo. Captain Janeway and Voyager's senior officers are enjoying some downtime on the holodeck. They have created a program simulating a day in the park, complete with games. Tom Paris tells Janeway he has waited all week to run a baseball program on the holodeck that he picked up on Deep Space Nine. Several of the senior officers are playing, including Tuvok. Stepping up to the plate, Tuvok hits the equivalent of a home run, much to the crew's surprise. Surak single-handedly changed the destiny of a species, allowing the Vulcans to survive and thrive. The Vulcans are central to Star Trek lore and debuted with the franchise. Mr. Spock, the first Vulcan ever seen and still the best known, appeared in The Cage, the first Star Trek pilot. Although it had not been established at the time, the Vulcans were a deeply intellectual race. In ancient times, the Vulcans were savage and warlike, but the philosopher Surak showed them a better way, by embracing the philosophy of logic and purging emotions. Surak single-handedly changed the destiny of a species, allowing the Vulcans to survive and thrive. From the start, Spock stood out among the other Enterprise crew thanks to his pointed Vulcan ears and eyebrows, but his people possess other interesting characteristics as well. Vulcans are incredibly strong. In the episode Amok Time, a far-addled Spock uses his fist to completely smash a communications console. Alongside their great strength, the Vulcans also possess greater physical endurance, which also translates into incredibly long lifespans. Spock's father Sarek, born in the early 23rd century, lived deep into the 24th. Likewise, Spock lived 161 years, and could have potentially lived even longer had he not traveled to another universe. Star Trek has long portrayed the Vulcans as a race defined by their logic, discipline, and mental prowess. But in one frequently overlooked arc from Star Trek Enterprise, a deeper, more profound glimpse into Vulcan potential quietly emerged, one that hinted at the race's greatest and most dangerous ability, emotional mastery without suppression. This subtle prediction lies in the Season 4 trilogy involving the Vulcan Reformation, culminating in the rediscovery of Surak's true teachings. When Enterprise debuted, its portrayal of Vulcans was controversial. Far from the serene, enlightened beings of later centuries, these Vulcans were secretive, aggressive, and judgmental, even militaristic. But this apparent betrayal of canon was actually a narrative seed. The arc that spanned The Forge, Awakening, and Kirshara recontextualized these Vulcans as a society that had strayed from the true teachings of their philosophical father, Surak. It was through this trilogy that Enterprise delivered one of its boldest ideas. Vulcans weren't meant to suppress their emotions entirely. They were meant to understand and control them without erasing them. The teachings Surak preserved were about finding inner peace through integration, not denial. This distinction subtly redefined what made Vulcans powerful. Their greatest ability wasn't logic, it was the will to stand at the edge of emotional chaos and not fall in. The implications were massive. Through the character of T'Pau and the rediscovered Kirshara artifact, this arc suggested that Vulcan society would evolve, returning to a path where logic and emotion could coexist. And that's exactly what we begin to see later in Star Trek's timeline. In Star Trek Discovery, Spock speaks more freely of his inner conflict. In Star Trek Picard, the Romulans and Vulcans are even seen on the path to reunification, a political movement rooted in this very philosophy. This wasn't a retcon, it was seeded right here in Enterprise. In essence, Enterprise quietly reframed the Vulcan legacy. It told us that the most advanced Vulcan was not the one who felt nothing, but the one who felt everything and still chose peace. That ability, hinted at in this overlooked arc, may be the most extraordinary in all of Trek's alien races, the mastery of self without self-erasure. For all their mental abilities, the mind melds, the telepathy, the katras, it's this unspoken spiritual evolution that makes the Vulcans exceptional. Not just what they can do, but who they choose to be in the face of powerful emotion. And thanks to Enterprise, we now know that choice was never an accident, it was a legacy reclaimed.